we don't think anybody has nailed one-to-one, human-to-human coaching in the way that we have, and that anyone has shown us to be as thoughtful and visceral about how to create real connection between two people, where that human is truly there for you, remembers you, and there's never a chatbot involved ever.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today, I'm joined by Rishi Mandal, co-founder and CEO of Future, a digital personal training service connecting users with human coaches. In this episode, we talk about the company's recent $75 million funding round, how Future built its platform around accountability and personalization. Plus, we discuss the power of the company's equipment-agnostic approach. Let's get into it. Rishi, welcome back, I should say, to Fitt Insider. Glad to have you back on. Excited to chat.
Great to be here. Thanks, Joe. And I'm excited to be back 100 episodes later, I think.
Yeah, I was looking before this. I think it was like episode 20 you were on, and that was, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now, almost at this point. So I think first things first, maybe if folks aren't familiar, could you give us like the quick background about yourself and Future?
Yeah, Future, I'll start there. We believe in coaching, and what Future does is pair people one-to-one with a world-class coach. Our coaches are on our staff, and today we employ more coaches and trainers than all the big sports leagues combined. So we're amassing a lot of coaching talent. We pair every customer with a coach, and that coach is available to you every day. Every Sunday, they build you a new training plan. They'll incorporate the things you love doing. They'll build custom workouts for you. We send every customer an Apple Watch so that coach can see if you're doing it or not. And there's real visceral accountability. And that's what's new here is consumers have lacked real accountability for extended periods of time. And with a coach in the loop, we're able to give people that. And then we connect you with your coach over text message. And you and your coach will talk every single day over text. And this is what we've ultimately determined is historically challenging about consumer fitness is we're expected to do it on our own. And if on your own is the expectation and the point of failure, what's different about Future is it's the radical opposite of that. We put a coach in your life truly every single day. So that's what Future is. And we really focus on your movement and fitness. And we've seen a lot of success with it so far.
Yeah, it's exciting and interesting to see. I think a lot of companies probably talk about coaching and whether you have like AI coaching, right? We're using technology or you're actually having like a remote or virtual personal trainer. I think in this case, you've really doubled down on this, like putting the human touch in this experience, and you're doing that through technology. And can't remember if I told you this or not, but my fiance has been using Future for 14 months. She hasn't missed a workout. So 3 days a week for 14 months. And I feel like Randy, her coach, is like a friend of ours. Like they legit talk and interact, and he builds the workouts, and he knows what's going on in her life. She knows what's going on in his life. They're friends for real.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to like really instill that human aspect in this digital remote coaching?
Yeah, and coaching is it's a really complicated art because every person needs something different at different points in their journey. They need a push, they need an accommodation, they need some tough love, and there is no singular type of coach or type of client. Those things are in flux. Furthermore, as you said, coaching only really works when the job to be done, so to speak, is not throw a performance plan at you, but it's actually try to unpack what makes you tick. And that takes time and surface area and discussion and meandering. And, Randy is a performance coach for the Lakers and talking about the crazy experiences of doing something like that. That this is what it takes. And so we've been very intentional about it. We know that we possess a pretty unique viewpoint in coaching because we have one of the largest coaching teams in the country. We build a tremendous amount of software to power two parts of a coach's job. There's the IQ of being your coach. Think about Joe and what is available to Joe. What injuries is he battling today, and he has a board meeting on Thursday, and we have to accommodate for that. If he's traveling, we will call the hotel. We will figure out what equipment is available. We will build for that. And we want to build you a sound program that is going to help you accomplish your goals, keep you safe, and so on. And we've built a tremendous amount of technology. We use machine learning models, great software experience for the coaches to make that efficient but high quality. And then the second part of the job, and arguably the harder part of the job, is the EQ part of your job. It turns out it does not matter how good your plan is if you don't do it. And so a lot of the efforts that we have invested in on the software side are helping a coach be in the right place at the right time with the right context. And so if you imagine having many, many clients who have different types of programs and priorities across time zones, at any given moment, there might be somebody who's at a critical point. They've just finished a workout, and you should follow up and really look at what they did, push them and give them some analysis about what happened, or somebody else who's not doing their workout that they're supposed to be doing today. And so we'll run models, for example, machine learning models, to help a coach understand that on a Friday, Joe has typically done his workout by this point on this day. Understanding he's not currently in a travel situation or in a disrupted schedule. And when we see that, we will flag for the coach, amongst various other priorities. You should probably proactively reach out to this person and say, hey, can I give you something shorter to do at the end of the day? Or give them a push if they need that. And so we're doing a lot of lifting on the software front, but that is only half the battle, as you've sort of encoded in your question. The other half of the battle is, how do we help coaches be themselves within some guardrails? And there's a great concept we discovered in the hospitality world. Think about real world hospitality, the world's greatest restaurants or hotels, where there is an art to accommodating people, surprising and delighting, and building a great experience. That world has this concept of not giving humans, not giving our coaches scripts, because that can be dehumanizing and unpersonal, but rather giving them riverbanks. And to say, in given situations, we don't want you to go to the left of here. We don't want you to go to the right of here. So within this framework is where future is, but read the room in between. And you can kind of tack left or right and read the room. And so we have a huge learning and development operation where our new coaches go through an education for how we think about IQ and EQ that is very focused and tested, and we can see their competency levels. We, over time, as coaches progress in their careers at Future, continue that process of teaching best practices and new techniques. And then overlaid on that, we have a playbooking team run by this brilliant sports psychologist at Future who studies what works and what doesn't work for different archetypes of customers. And what's great is these are not two very separate worlds, our playbooks and knowledge. All of those best practices that we discover and encode flow directly back into a coach's tool set. So at the moment when they're talking to you, they will see, what is this person's archetype and history with me? And what did we last talk about? And what did they just do? And now, given all of that context, what is the best practice for me to be following right now? And so, long way to say, we invest a lot of time and energy into building the operations, the technology, to always help a coach be in the right place at the right time with the right context.
Yeah, I think it's like this idea of a crazy enhanced, not only like CRM, but knowledge management and best practices, as you said, on how to interact. Because I think about going back to even in my personal experience, like as a personal trainer and working with different clients, like you're jotting all this stuff down by hand and you're trying to remember what you did last time, and you're tracking their, logging their reps and counting, timing things. And then you go back and it's like, how many of those coaches, right, then sat down and went over that information and extracted any type of data and did anything beyond like, the basics of like trying to be there for form and repetition and encouragement and motivation, accountability. But like, there's not a whole lot that then comes out of that. And so when you think about the ability to, from machine learning to best practices to even this hospitality aspect, it's really powerful. One thought that comes to mind is, how have the coaches responded, right? They go from this world or came up in this world of working with people one-on-one or in a group setting in person, and now they're doing this all digitally. What do they like about it? What don't they like about it? And how do you take that into consideration as you continue to build?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about a coach, you want to think about a real person and the impact that they want to have. And what's interesting about coaches is they are so talented, right? They possess a skill and a talent that can help and unlock people. And B, they are not in the kind of status quo of the world seen as these huge drivers of health in the same way that we see, let's say, psychiatrists or primary care physicians. They can have that level of impact, and we don't need to equate it, but they can have a massive impact on people's health outcomes and quality of life. But we haven't really historically been able to put them in a position, like you said, to not be consumed with the sales part of the job, the mechanics of the counting the reps and writing the programs, and to focus more on their unique talent. So what we've tried to do is take these talented people and help them, number one, reach as many people as is feasible for them. So amplify their impact. Instead of taking maybe 10 to 15 to 20 people locally who you see once or twice a week, because it starts to get expensive beyond that in one-on-one training, what we're able to do is help them reach 10 times as many people and be with them 7 days a week. So the level of impact is not just the number of people, but is the continuous integration, number one. Number two, we're able to give them then control of their time and geography. When you think about the conventional job of being a personal trainer, you talked about, you had done that in a gym setting. Typically, what you would experience is what we might call a lumpy demand curve, right? Everybody wants to work out before work or after work, 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. And in the middle of the day, you're not, maximally utilized. Here, the way we've built things at Future, the training experience itself is asynchronous, and then all the communication around it is synchronous. And so now a coach is not restricted or boxed out of helping 2 people who want to work out at 6 a.m. Heck, helping, many more people who want to work out at the same time. They're there to activate them beforehand, and they're there to follow up afterwards, but people can work out on their own time. So as a result, our coaches are able to have a more balanced day. They're not on their feet from 6 a.m. to 6, 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. They can be with their families. They can have dinner every day. They can live where, highest quality of life is for them. Be near family or friends, or if they want to be in New York City, they can be there, but they don't have to be there. And so all of that has created this new role. And then you're right. We take people who are on the floor constantly and say, now we're going to give you the power of software to give you impact. But it also, as we all know, software comes with slouching in front of a computer or a phone and a different, style of work. And so we try to be accommodative to say, how do we help you find balance in your life? And what's really cool is our coaches can, in our tool set, designate specific times of day or activities that are sacred for them. I got to get my workout in. I want to be on the floor here. I got to cook dinner for my kids. And the entire tool set and expectations form around that. And they can create a designation. Then what happens is during those periods of time, we are not blowing them up unless there's an emergency, right? And things get queued. And when they return, because we've had a respect for the fact that they wanted that time off, we'll say, while you were gone, here are the things that need your immediate attention. Here are the FYIs of what happened while you were gone. And remember, you were doing this. Let's resume that activity. And so it allows them to do deep work. It allows them to find priorities in their life. And so it's a new type of job. And we are kind of inventing it as we go. But we've learned that, as with anything, the cliche here, remains. Balance is what matters, and having a bit of that energy on the floor and having a bit of that impact of reaching many people is the healthiest, most sustainable place to be.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably talk about the coaching aspect alone for a couple hours and continue to dig into it. And I think there may be a few more things we could circle back to, but I also wanted to get your thoughts and hear you kind of talk about this aspect of Future, which is, it doesn't matter how people are working out, just that they are following through and being consistent in whatever form of exercise they're choosing, because so much of the fitness industry, especially in how it's marketed, right, is the modality or the equipment or the trainer or the platform. And well before we kind of had COVID pandemic times and all the different, focus and headlines and demand for at-home fitness, Future kind of came to it with this idea. We've talked about it in the newsletters being equipment agnostic, modality agnostic. We're going to focus on the habit and consistency.
Yeah.
How has that, how have you maintained the focus on that? And B, I guess, as we're now in a world where so many of the different companies have had these massive peaks and valleys. Gyms are closed. Now they're open. At-home fitness demand inventory. Now it's kind of slowing, and you're kind of motoring along, making sure that people stick with their habit. You just talk about that focus.
Yeah. It's a great point. It's something that's very unique about what we do. I think if you want to boil down Future to a core insight, it's that, there's this old saying that, and I don't know where it comes from. I've heard people say it, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And, the history of fitness, when we look at it, is people, 80% of Americans aren't active enough, despite the fact that the majority of them pick up something every year. So they're starting and not sustaining. And nothing sticks is the history of fitness, even though all of these, like you said, programs, modalities, celebrity content, and so on, it's amazing. It's wonderful stuff. It's hard to stick with any one thing because modern life is so disruptive, and your average American is working a job or two. And then on top of that, they have a family or a partner, or they're dating, which are emotionally draining, and social obligations and bills to pay and so on. That this idea that one single set routine will sustain for, months, let alone years on end, is a complete fallacy today. So if that's our core, insight, that consistency is everything, then, what we did was design Future around the idea that you can come with something or nothing. And when you first talk to your coach, we try to discover, what do you do that you love? What do you enjoy? How do we incorporate those things, keep you accountable to doing those things, and then probably build something well-rounded around that. And so, there's some interesting things that we've seen because we've existed pre-pandemic and through, and now, whatever phase we're in right now, I don't know what you would call it. We've seen the behaviors of people with a coach through all of those different circumstances. One of the great things that we saw was when we partnered with a brick and mortar gym, and we gave, many of their members a Future coach. In fact, these people were paying for it. We saw that 70% of those members were physically checking into that gym more often over a long period of time. And each of them was going 65% more often. We completely changed the way they used this space. And then, of course, the knock-on effects are they churned less, they were getting better results, they were happier, they started participating in the retail and the, buying shakes and so on. And the reason is pretty simple. Number one, now someone was in their ear, keeping them accountable to going. When they showed up, instead of not knowing what they're doing and seeing all the guys who, in front of the mirror seem like they know what they're doing, feeling bad about yourself, riding the elliptical for 15 minutes, not getting results, and then saying, why am I paying $75 to $200 a month for this thing I'm churning? Instead, people started walking in with confidence that, like, my coach is better than any of these people's coach. Like, I've got a plan. Even though that plan is a 15-minute thing or a 22-minute thing, I'm going to get work done. I'm going to get out of here. And over time, they build confidence, they build regularity. And then, of course, as you've seen, after 12 weeks, 16 weeks of that, you start seeing physical adaptation. You start to ingrain some of these behaviors, and it becomes something that is attractive rather than contrived. So we've seen that work in brick and mortar gyms. Then, on the flip side, especially during the pandemic, we saw a large percentage of our members had Pelotons, for example. A meaningful percentage of them did. And we could see empirically, because we send our customers, the wearable so we can see what they're doing and not doing, that they were not using it nearly as much as they wanted to. With a coach, however, we see that the average, Future member who has a Peloton rides it more than 2x more than the average Peloton member. They really start to increase the usage of that thing, which we celebrate. So, I think the thing that we look at as a company is what you're doing today for sure will be different than what you're doing in 5 years. If you are boxing every day today, that is an amazing thing. We're happy for you. Are you going to be doing that when you're 80? Maybe not, and that's okay. How do we help continually adapt with you? And we've tried to build a product that undergirds all of that. My favorite stat around this was, so our average member works out 4 times a week, 16 times a month for 40 minutes on average. They sustain that over long periods of time. We see this across our novices all the way to our very experienced, competent members. And, March 2020, so go back almost exactly 2 years when the beginning of the pandemic happened, or really, we started to see the effects here in our country. If you looked at our weekly workouts for our customers, 4 week, 4 week, 4 week, we saw absolutely no detectable change. There was no blip, no trough, nothing, because the whole design of Future is we take it week by week, right? And we say, what do you have available this week? We'll build for that. And so 1 week it was you're at the gym. The next week is I have nothing. I'm at home. I'm scared to go outside. And it was, that's okay. I'll build you a bunch of workouts. I'm going to hold you accountable. And then we saw the same with reemergences, openings, reopenings, and closings. We have had that consistency because the design is to say, what are we working with this week and how do we maximize that? So we've really celebrated that. That I think is one of the big reasons we have incredible retention for our product is when you're traveling, when you're sick, when you're injured, the work doesn't have to stop. We adapt. And we might be doing something different or lighter or smaller or more intense, but we want to continue to keep you active. And so we've seen huge rises, and we get a lot of data about what people are doing because we work across all these modalities. We've seen a huge rise in outdoor running and walking and hiking, which actually has persisted even as things have reopened. Some people have discovered or rediscovered the love of that.
Yeah. And I think it's also this idea that there's no ulterior motive. You don't have a piece of equipment to sell. You don't have a digital subscription, any content that matters. It's like, if the thing that you're choosing is something that you're really passionate about, or even something you just want to try, or you have a membership elsewhere, that's great. But are you going and are you following through? And do you know what to do when you get there? Or do you have questions? I think are just small tweaks along the way and as part of the process that previously, just the idea that, oh, I have a gym membership. And that was the success metric, in terms of your fitness journey, that was perceived as having taken a step. It's certainly in the right direction, but what are you doing when you go? So this layer of having access to an expert or a coach is hugely powerful, just even in that way.
And you talked a little bit about how the consumer is changing, and we're watching this, right? People are increasingly, with hybrid work, with the rediscovery of, at home can be quite a good workout, even with no equipment, or I enjoy the outdoors. We are seeing a rise in the number of different modalities people are engaged with. And I think what we've discovered is with more modalities to juggle, it is yet more useful to have somebody, managing all of that for you. And so now I think we believe, we talk about connected fitness. And we think we're seeing an even next level of connection where fitness modalities are kind of stitched together, not necessarily talking to one another, but part of the same story, where your wearable is part of the same story as the thing that your piece of equipment you're using and the walks you're doing outdoors. And then, of course, there's a layer of connection with a human, with your coach. And so we think there's just an evolution coming. Plugging it into the internet is maybe the very bare bones to call something connected, but actually having it speak to all the different things you're doing, be centralized somewhere to have someone to talk to about it. That level of connection we think is attractive and more useful as people are engaging in more varied types of exercise, because they're in the office only two or 3 days a week. So that gym is only convenient 2 or 3 days a week. And on the other days, they're at home or they're using a device at home. And we've seen coaching actually become more useful to people through that change.
Yeah, I'll take that thread and kind of pull on it and a step further. This is something even, a couple of years ago, last time you were on, came up, and I think it was kind of in the most recent release when you guys raised the recent round of funding, this idea of a constellation of experts that, hey, maybe it's not just fitness, maybe it is whatever, nutrition, mental health, sleep, all these other aspects of well-being and life in general. How are you thinking about down that path, right, of connection and integration and the other aspects of well-being, extending this, putting an expert in somebody's life?
Yeah, I think outside of even our own ambitions as a company, we are seeing one-to-one expertise exploding across all categories in consumer health. And one-to-one coaching the presence of expertise is not new. We've seen really successful models in retail. Take a company like Stitch Fix, for example, which will give you, remote stylist. Or we've seen this for years in education and money management, that there's an attraction and a real simplification of your life when you can get access to experts. What we're finally seeing is that happening at an accelerated pace in consumer health. Certainly, Future does that in fitness, but we see companies doing this in therapy or stress management. Think about text message therapy companies. How powerful is it that there might be a moment in time in which you're feeling stressed or depressed or suicidal? The conventional option for you was to then process that, call your local provider, and book time next Tuesday, right? And now you have the option. You don't have to take it, but now you have a viable option to talk to somebody qualified, licensed within an hour of having those feelings. Like, what a powerful idea. And we see this happening in stress management, in nutrition, more nascent there. We see things happening in sleep. The reason fitness is a really robust place to do this is the model of coaching is quite developed. The expertise is there, the consumer understanding is there, and our ability to measure your actions from afar are really, really empirically, doable. And so that's where we've built our home. But what happens if you can deliver on true one-to-one connection is trust gets built. You've heard me talk about, we think the most magical thing about Future is not that people work out a bunch, that they're happy with their coach, that they stick with it for a long time. The most magical thing that happens is that the average customer is trading 4 text messages every single day with their coach, 7 days a week. And, I remember looking at, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. It's like 25,000 words. Our average customer trades 25,000 words with their coach every year over text messages. They're writing Shakespeare, and our top customers are doing that every 12 weeks. There's so much information being shared about biometrics, behaviors, habits, socioeconomic factors in your life. What do you do for a living? How do you get to work? And we think that is such an interesting and powerful thing that happens with one-to-one coaching, which is a relationship unlocks a whole heck of a lot more than, say, one-to-many content or AI coach. It's hard to be vulnerable to something like that. And this in turn, we think, leads to opportunities to serve people better and more holistically. That once we do understand the shape of your life, because we manage one aspect of your health, who better than the person who's talking to you 4 days a week to help kind of shape or point you in the right direction towards maybe viable solutions around how to deal with that stress, or who to connect with to sleep better, to eat better, and so on. So we see this happening outside of our own ambitions across the spectrum. One-to-one expertise is rapidly taking hold. And the pandemic plays a part in that too, right? In the last, call it 2 years, there's been an increase in conversation amongst the normal consumer around health. Mm-hmm. We're talking about preventive health. We're talking about comorbidities of, COVID and people who are more or less susceptible to these things. The conversation about health has been elevated. Number 2, social isolation has been a real thing. And so people's openness to connect to folks over video or remotely has increased. That appetite has increased. And then the third thing that has happened is just a rapid adoption and an acceleration of adoption of technologies. I think it's so amazing and interesting that, my co-founder, Justin Santamaria, was one of the creators of FaceTime and iMessage at Apple. Right? We've had FaceTime, a way to see people and talk to them for 15 years more. But it's not until the last couple of years that we've had billions of Zoom calls happen, where people's openness, they're becoming more accustomed to that format. So with all of those things happening, it's become a more and more mainstream concept to talk to somebody remotely over text or over video, to do a consultation, to say hi. And so that is all of that, I think, has catalyzed one-to-one expertise is something that we're going to see rapidly happening. And by the way, I'm out there talking to fitness companies. They're all thinking about this, right? Yes, we want you to use our thing more, but how do we get you attention and expertise? And so we think we're going to see a lot of this happening.
Do you foresee that as, and maybe you can't say at this point, but is that Future saying, hey, let's make recommendations and partner with a mental health company, partner with a nutrition company, so on and so forth? Or is that, hey, we're going to scale up the network of experts so that now, in addition to this fitness thing, we can refer you to our mental health coach or our nutritionist that's part of that future offering?
What I can say is we don't think anybody has nailed one-to-one, human-to-human coaching in the way that we have, and that anyone has shown us to be as thoughtful and visceral about how to create real connection between two people, where that human is truly there for you, remembers you, and there's never a chatbot involved ever. And so we think our approach is really unique. And to the degree that we can find other resonant partners who see the world the same way, have the same sophistication, certainly we're interested. But inventing something is always a matter of last resort, right? Like, why recreate the wheel, reinvent the wheel if something exists? But I'll say that we have high standards and we're looking for ways to help people with these things. And we're open to, because we feel like we understand human expertise and how to create some leverage there. We're open to all manners of solutions there.
So as you think about continuing to grow into the future, no pun intended. So the company to this point has raised well over 100 million in funding, 75 million coming more recently. You've alluded to it in terms of both with the financing, some partnerships. Is there anything either A, you're excited about, or B, we should be on the lookout for in the near term that you can talk about at this point?
Yeah, I would say, future is rapidly converging on, some scale. And what we have said is we'll be doing, north of 100 million in revenues by early next year. We are moving quickly, growing quickly. Very soon we'll have the largest coaching team in the country, possibly in the world. And then as we really cement that, we are really looking to help people with more and more aspects of their health. So our pursuit is to right now scale up and then to ladder up. That's not been a secret. I think we talked about that a year and a half ago when we talked about the company. But I think we're at that part of the curve now for this company where we've seen how to get the loops to work just right and the relationships to take hold, to keep people for years and years, and then help with more and more. So that's what you can expect from us over the coming year.
Awesome. A lot to look forward to. And wrapping up, we'll get you out of here on this. For folks who want to check it out, learn more, where's the best place to do that?
Future.co. Answer a few questions, and in about a minute, we end up matching you with, an incredible coach. And we make it easy to try. We remind you a week before your first, recurring payment after that initial period. So we really want people to use it if they think it is life-changing. And so far, we've gotten great return on that. I should mention, a third of our members are complete novices. They come to us with 0 to 1 workouts under their belt as a part of their routine. The 20% of our members are hardcore. We train lots of Olympians, pro athletes, college athletes, and then 50% are just normal people in between. And across the spectrum, we have coaches from, high-level athletics and people who work with working professionals. And so for all types of folks, we find that it's a really powerful overlay to have a coach. You can do it with no equipment at all, or with lots of things that you're passionate about, and to have a coach keep you accountable and to bring their expertise to the table.
Yeah, something for everyone, and making coaching more accessible. So I appreciate you both sharing that and some of the insights related to it. Excited to continue to follow along. So appreciate you making some time.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here, man.